Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 19 of the Make Music Income podcast. I'm here with my friend Eric Copeland of MakeMusicIncome.com. This episode is brought to you by ProductionMusicAcademy.com. And in this episode today, we'd like to discuss the art, or should I say the practice, of writing music specifically for specific libraries. Both Eric and I work with a few different libraries respectively, and we both like to share some insights with you on this topic today. But before we do, let me just ask you, Eric, what your week's been like. I've been kind of in a coma this last week, so you got to fill me in on all the details here.
Well, so this has been an exciting week for me. Really have been working on something new. I'm going to do a little bit more announcing of this in a future video, but let's just say there's a bit of a day job situation going on now, and right. I'll be talking about this in a few videos once, because I want to talk about new music incomes, and it might be time for us, maybe even as soon as our 25th episode or some special episode like that, where we talk about, when we first started this channel, here were our music incomes, and now what's going on with us, and kind of update that from every 25 videos or so, every 25 weeks or so. But,
yeah.
Because it changes, and it's definitely changing for me. I got contacted last week by two brand new libraries that I apparently just wrote emails to them in December, and each has contacted me and is interested in my music. One is an exclusive library that I'd not heard of before, and then one was a kind of a library that still I hadn't heard much from before, but it's both royalty free, but it's also can do exclusive and non-exclusive. Sounds like maybe an Audio Sparks solution or something like that. My New Music Tuesday has been doing great. Like your terrific monthly listening sessions, these have turned into a nice, fun thing to do on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
And just some new content to offer people. And I have a lot of fun talking to those people and listening to those songs. And just like you, they blow me away sometimes how good they are. One has even brought in a new artist that I have contacted, and we're going to take her song and her recorded version that's on Spotify, mix in the strings from somebody on our Krishna from our Discord, who did an orchestral arrangement of it, and I'm going to add in Nashville musicians and stuff like that, and we're going to make one big, beautiful, chart-topping version of this song, which is a great song.
Awesome.
And great vocalist.
Yeah, you showed it to me. It's really
so I'm so excited to move towards that and have, it's kind of all the worlds coming together: artist world, Make Music Income world, Discord world, and then showing everybody, and maybe that'll be a whole video of how this came about and how songs can happen, and it'll be one I pitch to sync for sure.
Nice.
And then since we didn't have our episode last week, I did my Pond 5 and AudioJungle Experiment video, which was pretty interesting, if not exciting, as far as money is concerned. It was interesting on how changes to AudioJungle and Pond 5 did in March. I will tell you, it's not the same story 7 days into April. Mm-hmm. But there's things I've done to those libraries since then that are different. So I'll have to update that at some point here. Maybe at the end of April, I'll do a experiment 2, it's like the sequel. But gaming music, I did an episode with Steve Malin about gaming music, and that turned out really well. And it's second on my last 10 videos. People loving that. Mm-hmm. And we talked a little about gaming music, but we also talked a lot about just life as a composer and how to approach incomes. And I think it's really an interesting viewpoint that he has about this. And also him and a few other people like Dave Croft have influenced me more about live videos versus videos that we make for our channels and things like that.
Yeah, I wondered if Steve had any insight on that, because he's been doing just lives for quite some time now, and he used to do edited videos back in the day all the time. He's got like a huge backlog or a huge, repository of of videos that he's done on like so many different subjects. But I noticed that he only does live videos now. So what's that mean for you? Are you switching to pure live?
No, I don't think so. But I will have the Tuesday and Thursday 11 a.m. lives.
Yeah,
always. They will be consistent, and then once every other week, I'll have this podcast on my channel, and on the other weeks it's on your channel, and on the other weeks it's on your channel. I'll put out another piece of content because I like to have like about 3 pieces of content a week if I can for people. But the lives, as you know, once they're done, they're up and they're done, and there's no editing, and it continues to keep stuff on the channel. So, and I think people appreciate it, and 20 plus people come hang out right now, which is fun. I don't even do that much pushing of it. Like today, it was like, I'm doing it in 10 minutes. Come join me. Probably if I did it, like I see Clint Music and a lot of people doing it a week ahead, saying, hey, I'm going to be talking about how beats get to libraries on this date, and you have to wait a week to see that stuff. So maybe I should start doing that. But anyway, let's see. Sync news. I talked to my BMG library yesterday, which is now, this is very interesting, pretty much a BMG and Universal library. So it's not just a BMG library anymore. He's also dealing with Universal. The problem with, or the only downside to the Universal side, it's kind of a good news, bad news situation. The good news is it's way bigger than BMG, Universal worldwide. The bad news is the split is halved. In other words, Universal takes the publishing, and then myself and the library split the writing, and we split the. I believe we split the writing, but I know we definitely split the upfronts. So that's a quarter upfront rather than a half of whatever the song makes in upfronts. Yeah. And I'm not quite sure about the writing. I think that's also split, but I'll find out more about that. But still, that's only an option. He said he would come to me and say, okay, if I take this album, I'm thinking this one, Universal really wants this one. So it might be better because Universal's bigger and might be even though you're getting a smaller piece of the pie, it's more pie, So he also requested new albums yesterday. So I've got a slew of new albums that he's interested in hearing and me doing, and the current one I'm working on, he said ASAP because he's getting ready to do a big push. And so that was a good conversation. And my percussion album is coming along. And I missed a taxi brief this week just because I was so busy and just don't have that much time right now until I get this new thing kind of settled. But that same brief appeared again this morning on taxi for a few weeks from now. So I'll just pitch to that one when it comes up. Stock is worst month so far. I'm still doing more experimenting, and I'll have another video on my stock experiments later, as I said. And I probably, personally, and we'll talk about this today, I might be having a little less interest in that side of things outside of motion array, let's say. And Pond 5 and AudioJungle kind of go along for the ride just because they pay the next best. But between this new job that I'm working, this new music income that I have, and compose and trying to compose and doing briefs like this week, it's been all I could handle to do my videos and write for this brief and do this job and a few other things and keep clients happy, and keep client stuff moving along. Yeah. So. Yeah, it's been a week of new work, and I think it'll calm down. It's still a matter. It's like we talk about all the time, scheduling your time really, really carefully. And now I have to do it super finite. I have to be really like, this time can only be for this. I got to finish this brief from 12 to 12:30 because Stevie's going to call me and do the thing at 12:30 or whatever. I've got to really be on those deadlines. So
that's cool. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool that you're getting it all done, though, regardless.
Yeah, still am. And getting sleep and still all is good. Health is good. Yeah. And, as long as I can keep that up. And this is with the very first week of this situation. So after a month or two, that'll all get like, okay, no, it's getting automatic now. And then I can start to keep all the balls up in the air a little better.
Yep. Yep. Right on, man. Well,
and more money.
Yeah, well, that's
more
the
music
thing.
income. You get more music income. It allows you to pick and choose more of what you want to do. The more income you make from the music, especially if that's all we do, and both of us, that's all we do. Mm-hmm. So having that income, that allows us to go, okay, so I don't have to do 20 lessons a week.
That's what I was just going to say. It's so important to alleviate the stress that, being on that cusp of like, not making enough money. It's so important to take that off the table. And it doesn't have to be a lot of money necessarily for us, but just enough coming in that, we don't have to worry, because that stress and that anxiety, it really affects, our emotional state, especially when it comes to writing music and just being like creative, feeling good about it. Yeah, being creative. So it's nice
or wanting to be creative.
Yeah.
And not just sleep or something else, So
yeah, exactly.
So how about you? Get anything done this week besides your great video yesterday that you put out?
I got a lot of sleeping done. I got a Halls in my mouth, so I hope my voice doesn't sound weird. I'm just popping Halls like
Love
crazy.
That Halls mentholyptus.
Yeah, it's been up and down for me because even though I felt like a lot better, by yesterday morning when I did the live stream, but then I just as soon as the live stream was over, I went back to feeling like crap and just went right back to bed. So it's been very up and down. I'm still symptomatic. It's annoying, but it is what it is. I'm glad to get it over with, and I'm glad it didn't happen. It could have been a lot. The timing could have been way worse. So all things
and the
considered,
variant probably could have been worse.
The variant could have been worse too. Yeah, I mean, I avoided it for much of hearing stories of people getting sick and being in the hospital. I mean, I've
had those horrible people and lost one of my main programmers to it in August, and it was crippling. It's crippling to my business and to my future of my music in general.
Right.
So it's a deadly thing.
It is, exactly.
We should be lucky to stay away or not have it that bad. So
exactly, I feel lucky, all things considered. So I'm not whining too much about it. But I didn't get a lot of work done, but it was great to do the live stream yesterday, and as always, it's just a pleasure to feature everyone's work from the Academy. Everyone just blew me away once again. Every month it's just I do this, and I can't believe that the work that people are sending me is just so cool to see it. The challenges are just such a fun thing for me to do. I just posted April's challenge. I have no idea what the reaction is going to be to it. It's a little bit unconventional.
Okay.
But it's basically a huge collaboration project. That's all I'll say for now. But
okay, good. I'll go look at it.
You can go check it out, and I'll talk about it a bit more down the road. But the one thing that is a positive that I can talk about from this about this week is that I had an exceptionally good month on Motion Array, and that's part of what we're talking about here today. Is that as many of you know, and I've talked about this quite a bit on the Discord, I kind of write music with libraries in mind. I pitched very specific music that I thought would be a good fit for Artlist. And I always, I always have the library's catalog in mind when I send them music. So yeah, today's topic is based on, what happened on Motion Array last month, which is like kind of a surprise to me. I was already doing well. One of my tracks became a staff pick. This is sort of like a high energy pop track that I wrote. And I didn't expect it to do that well. I wasn't, to be honest with you. I mean, stylistically, it was right for the library, I thought, but it wasn't my greatest mix, and I really didn't expect it to do so well. But it did exceptionally well, and my earnings were already over 1,000 by about 3 weeks into March. So I was like, oh, this is great. And then at the very
that's how many downloads. 500-600
over
no, have to be
it was
Have to be in
pushing
thousands
like,
of downloads.
yeah, it was well over 1,500 downloads by that point. And then it got to by the end of the month, it got to over 2,000 downloads.
Goodness.
And I think, yeah, so what happened was they, and I didn't know this at all, but they rewarded the track for being in the top 20 most downloaded, one of the most top 20 most downloaded assets in that category. And what they did is they just basically say, okay, we're taking your downloads and we're increasing it by 200%, and that's going to be what your income is. We're going to reflect your income based on.
So twice that amount?
Yeah, so twice. So they multiply your downloads.
4,000 something downloads probably.
Yeah, exactly. So in the level 7 category, I probably still didn't make it to level 7 because I think level 7 is like 4,600 downloads or something like that.
Oh, you might have though.
I might have. So, so that turned, my income, that doubled my income, and so it was well over $2,000 American. I think it was like 2,200 American, which is great for me. The exchange rate is awesome. It means it's probably somewhere, I don't know what it is, like over $2,500 Canadian.
And that's for 1 month.
That's for 1 month. So I mean, and it's like now because it was a staff pick for the month, right? It's like now it's kind of gone back to normal, but you still got to do it on averages, because it's like, the first January and February, it was like, around $300 to $500 a month normally. And if you say I can get a staff pick or something that like does really, really well once every 3-4 months, then that's an average of like probably, over $1,000 a month if I'm lucky. So Motion Array is still very much alive and well for me.
And Motion Array has always been, and if you're tuning in this podcast and you have no idea what Motion Array is and what we're talking about, it is one of these stock music libraries that we work with alongside individual sales libraries like Pond5 or AudioJungle. But Motion Array is a subscription library, which means people can pay a monthly subscription and then download as much as they want specifically probably for their YouTube videos, for their presentations, for any use that they have for this kind of music. And would you say that was a corporate-ish type of tune or a lo-fi tune?
No, it was more on the corporate side. Yeah.
Yeah. So that means it's that kind of busy music that's going on underneath while somebody is talking in one of their videos, or they're showing scenes from
pop music. Really, it's pop music, but it's like, it's corporate-y. It's very tight and it's clean. I have corporate tracks up that and we were talking about this earlier, which you were using for a reference with someone that you're working with, which
I'll tell that story in a minute.
Yeah, which are more on the electronic side and very kind of like typical corporate. This one had like some guitar in it, so it's like less on that corporate tip, and more on like the indie pop kind of vibe. But listening back to it, the bass is way too loud in it. I was like, I don't know what was going on with my ears that day, but I was like, the bass is way too loud in this track. But maybe people like that. I don't know.
Well, I remember looking towards the end of March, last third of March, from 20 to the 30th somewhere. And I just, because every once in a while you will go to, about the only way to know how your songs are doing is to start going to some of the different lists they have. And the very first list that comes up under audio royalty-free music is what they call the staff picks selection, or staff pick selection. Now, there's pages and pages of that, and each page has 60 files on it. I counted. There's 60 to a page. Right. And you were number 3 on the very first page.
Yeah.
So, and that's the first thing that people see if they're brand new to Motion Array, or if they just go and see what is the staff saying is great, and they go to even if they don't even have to pick the staff, that's the thing that's always up first is the staff picks, and they've picked the top 60 plus whatever songs.
Yeah, and to be because it's funny because
And I don't know where that information comes from. If it comes from most downloads, and they say you should know this, but
I should point out that because this is relevant to the topic today, which is writing music specifically for libraries. I don't reference the staff picks for what I'm writing for Motion Array. I reference just the straight up most popular music on the library, and there's a discrepancy there.
In a genre, the most popular in a genre, or just most popular on Motion Array in general.
In a genre. So like I'll type in hip hop or corporate, those keywords, and I'll see what pops up on the list first, and I'll filter it by most popular. It's important to do that because what's most popular on the site isn't necessarily a stat pick all the time. The business mastermind track, the corporate track that I wrote, which also was number one in the category for quite a long time, did very, very well.
And that made
last
you some
year.
good money.
Made me a lot of money, that one.
Yeah.
That was that was never a staff pick or anything like that.
So do you think it's more important to search from most popular versus staff pick for how they're going to where downloads are? So in other words, that's how you know if that song is getting a lot of downloads that month. I mean, you don't know how many
you don't know how many, but you know if it's getting a lot, if it's coming in up on the top 5, on any
of the genre of the main. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's important to look at that, but it's also cool to look at the staff picks too, because the staff picks are going to help your downloads, of course.
So maybe that doesn't matter as much as. So when it was number 3 on staff picks, do you know what it was around what it was on most popular? Did you check at that time?
No, I didn't check. I should have checked, but I did not
check either. Well, that's interesting. And so let's do a flip-flop now to my month last month on Motion Array. And just to show you the difference and what we think is, and we both collectively think this, and I know it is, and you might think I'm an idiot when you hear what I'm doing, but my take last month, and I even had some requests that were taken in. They do some briefs sometimes, and they did Easter briefs, and I got 3 of those in. Last time I did that, I got a $150 bonus, but it doesn't look like so far I got that unless they don't award the bonus until the statements come out. But at this time, I don't remember when I got it last time. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I had around 300 downloads, which put me in level 4, and made me about $103. So that's kind of a range, and that 300 downloads is probably a decent amount for the normal person. And right. I know there are lots of people that were listening to this video that are on Motion Array that will be like, I wish I had 300 downloads because I only had like 10 or 20 or 50 or whatever, and they don't make it up to the next level to make more money and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And remember, for those of you who don't know about this, they're only paying 21 cents, 28 cents, 35 cents, 42 cents, 48 cents per download. So you have to have a big amount. And that's why, when Steve got between 1,000 and 2,000 downloads, things started to get really interesting because you get up to one of the highest pay points. Plus, it's just more is more, and more is better, a bigger piece of the pie, like we said before. So I think it's and when I look at it, you have to understand what I put up to Motion Array is what I decide to write. And there's only a few times that I write specific things to go on Motion Array or royalty-free libraries in general. And that is when there's a holiday coming up, so I put a bunch of Easter stuff up. So I'm hoping for a bit of a rebound month this month over the next week. Sunday is Palm Sunday, which is the Sunday that kind of starts the Easter week. And then Easter is the Sunday after that. So I'm hoping that next week people are searching for Easter stuff and doing a lot of that kind of stuff. I saw that last year. I saw a big boost that last year in that. But it hadn't started yet, I'm telling you right now, on any of the libraries. But I'm hoping for all the last-minute video makers who are making videos for their services on Easter or Palm Sunday will find some of these Easter songs that I've put up. That's the closest, besides one time when I copied this goofball on Motion Array. His name was Stevie B, and he had a song called Business Mastermind. And it had done very well for you. And I think you related even on this podcast how much it paid you out that month because it did really well. And you just talked about it. And so I looked at that song. I said, I'm going to totally rip this song off. And so I ended up, I charted it. I looked at the tempo. I looked at the key. I don't know if I did it in the same key or not, but and then I started down that road. Now, what I ended up with is not sound like it.
Well, that's the thing, is you didn't rip it off. That's the key point.
I didn't. I just used it as a template, basically.
And that's what references are for.
Yeah.
And
so I used it as a template, and then myself took over as I got through it, and it became what I am when it's done. And then that song, just to make a long story short, has become probably my best paying song on Motion Array since I dropped it on January 1st. Yeah.
There you go.
I think it's still the number one. Now, that also, that song, your song, Business Mastermind, also inspired another. I think I talked about that. I did a video on my Composer channel that said, this is what happened. I did this on purpose. So one of my clients who I do monthly consulting with, so he just entered Pond 5 and he's getting ready to submit to Motion Array and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And by the way, one of my earlier consulting clients, Joe, just got into Motion Array last week. I don't know if I told you that, but Joe O'Rourke.
Yeah, right.
Is got it. He's been working on it, and when we were working together in consulting, he was trying to say, what am I going to put in? What am I put in? And I said, you should do public domain stuff, and that's what's in there now. It's in Motion Array, and I see his name popping up and his songs popping up. So that's
there you go. Yeah.
But this other client, he sent me a song, and I was like, dude, this is great. I love everything. He goes, guess what I did? I totally ripped off Business Mastermind. Now, his doesn't sound a bit like yours either. It sounds like him, but the structure is similar. And it's probably going to be one of his more successful songs, probably in the corporate type of way. But he's a little like you in the fact that he plays his own guitars and basses. And
let me tell you a dirty secret. I ripped someone else off on Motion Array too. Hey, isn't that what we do as our? And you know what? I don't like using the words.
There's nothing new under the sun.
I don't like that because mine, you wouldn't be able to tell that it was that I took someone else's track as a reference. I do it all the time, and this is something actually Jesse talks about a lot on Sync My Music, and he's totally right. You should always be working with a reference. It's very difficult not to. It doesn't mean that you're like people might feel like they're plagiarizing or something like that. Just take it. You don't have to use the same melody over the chord structure. Just use it as a template for arrangement, for instance, or use it as a guide for checking your drum sound. Or checking, like the mix, the way that the instruments are. A reference isn't meant to be like, hey, let's copy paste this exact track, the exact same way that you took my reference. If you had told me that, if you had sent me that track and said, hey, I use Business Mastermind as a reference, I would have been surprised, to be honest. It didn't sound anything like Business Mastermind. It was you injected your personality and your creativity into something. You were just using my track as a reference point for, sample selection and tempo, like you mentioned, and that's the way to do it. So I did the exact same thing with that Business Mastermind. I found awesome. Another track that I really liked on Motion Array itself. Yeah. I found a track that I really liked, and I said, hey, this guy has got some, this is a good template to start with, so. And I'm sure that dude probably used a reference too. So
both of us did that to specifically do well on Motion Array, because we know that's the best paying library if you get a lot of downloads. And it was last year or this year. You get thousands of downloads. You're going to do well last year or this year. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how they pay. Now they're more based on downloads than they were on. I don't know sales. I don't know exactly the difference in their pay structure, but it's definitely based on the amount of downloads, because you got to a certain amount and then you got rewarded for that amount of downloads. Mm-hmm. So I don't usually do that, and that's a mistake that I make and don't do better in Motion Array, because last year anything I put in there just blew up. It just, I mean, not anything, but I just put in jazz songs and pop songs and wrote songs with vocals. They like songs with vocals, and
yeah, they do.
And some of those I just never would have expected. Some songs that I wrote years ago and recorded years ago, I threw up there, and some of them did really good. This year, it's going to be a little bit more of a pointed game. You're going to have to focus your energies. Now, and speaking of the ref, I had a library call me yesterday and say, or I guess it was Tuesday, and said, I have a song in, I can't remember what it was, in the UK or something. So it was a brief for a commercial. Here's the reference, and it pays $1,500. And so I said, okay. So I went to I literally took the ref and put it in Logic. I charted it out.
Yeah.
Or wasn't much to chart. It was more like loop, 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 breakdown, loop, loop, because it was such a simple kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I made a similar type of loop. And then after I made the similar type of loop, I started adding in my own kind of thing, because it had its own chordal thing that it was doing. And I just picked he actually suggested that I use vibraphone. And so I used vibraphone, and then I used a little lo-fi sound. It's not up here anymore, but from a library called Lo-Fi Glow on Incomplete.
Yep, I know it.
And just found this little, sparkly thing with some dirt in it. And I used that along with the vibraphone. Didn't play the same notes, just kind of, that's the chordal energy of it with the loop. And and then I said, I know it needs some kind of bass. And we were talking about bass on this. And I ended up putting a little bit of upright to it. And I've given him several versions. I haven't heard back yet. But, and that's the game. You got to play to exactly what the client wants. And in Motion Array's case, Motion Array, the client is the people who are downloading these things to use in their videos.
That's right.
And this is no different than any production work you do for any client, really.
Yeah.
It's just you have to respect what that library wants. My respect level, you're a little bit more focused than I am. Like, dude, I don't have time to be doing anything that is just, I'm going to just throw in there. I only have time to do one song or 5 songs that hit the bullseye right in the middle, and that's all I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. And I don't play the game the same way, so I make less. And that's just the way it is. It may change. I may just try to do what I did with the right path and copies, like doing what you're doing, use some more reference tracks for Motion Array, but maybe not. It's just I have so many different income streams.
An engineer's sort of approach to writing music. Like I'm interested in sound design and building things with sound, and it's like I completely understand. It's like a lot of people say, for instance, that they're not interested in making corporate music, which I totally understand because we get it. And for me, when I first heard when I first understood exactly what corporate music even was, like listening to some of those bestsellers on AudioJungle back in the day, it's like my first thought was like, well, I mean, I didn't really think to myself I dislike or I like this music. I was kind of just I look at things analytically and I just say, oh well, it's interesting what sounds they're using here, and the way that it's being mixed. It's like I don't really know if it gives me that much of a feeling. It's actually kind of in a way, it's kind of very cold emotionally, right? It's not meant to give you a big reaction emotionally, because that's the whole idea. It's being used in a corporate in a sense where it's not meant to be too distracting to whatever the content it's backing up, right? So I tend to look at things from just a sound design perspective. I hear certain types of music, and I'm interested in how do you deconstruct this? What are the elements that go into this, and why does it sound this way? And why do these things work, and why does this not work, and that kind of stuff. So that's sort of my approach sometimes. And for me, it's fun to pick those things apart. For me, it's fun to pick it apart and to build it and to build stuff. It's kind of like Lego for me. I'm just building things.
I get it.
So that for me the approach works, but I will be the first one to say I understand if that's not everyone's approach. Some people just want to do their thing. Some people want to do their thing, and writing music for libraries or with the specific intention of it being licensable, even, it's not everyone's cup of tea. I totally understand that.
Well, and I probably fall in the middle somewhere because I do want to make passive income from libraries, Motion Array included, but also Pond5, AudioJungle. I don't think those are so ubiquitous, and their bar of entry, especially Pond5, is a bit lower, and there's 2 million files in each of those. Yeah, and I think something like Motion Array is a little bit smaller and focused, and certainly more curated, I think, than any of the other ones. And so Motion Array in a lot of ways is like working for Artlist or for an exclusive library where they're going to not accept anything. A lot of people that we know that are in our Discord have not even been able to get accepted there. And it's not because they're terrible. It's just that they're not, for whatever reason, making what Motion Array wants to hear. So, but this goes for any library. My exclusive library, both the exclusive libraries I have, they have standards. They have what they want to hear, and I have to write towards that. And there are probably other libraries that we could look at. And I don't think AudioJungle or Pond5 are what I'm talking about. I think I'm more talking about maybe the Chinese libraries be fine and 100 Audio, maybe other specific libraries where we know that there are certain audiences looking for the music there. And would Asian or corporate and stuff work better? Does that library lean more towards there? I don't know if you can really look up most popular there and stuff, but
in the Chinese libraries, I'm not sure. Yeah, but if you can't search most popular, you can pretty much rest assured that whatever comes up first on the results of if you're typing in in search results, that's probably the most popular.
Could be. Yeah. So I think this goes for any music library, if you want to be a music library. But I don't think it's much different than working for a client. If you're a producer listening to this and you work with clients, you know that you can't just produce anything you want for that client. That client wants what they want, and they are not going to just let you do something that you just think is cool and then put their voice on it. They're going to be like, well, that's not my thing. That's not what I'm going for. If you're doing a commercial work for a commercial client, you can't just do whatever you want. You got to do exactly what's in their non-musical brain to do. And so this isn't just writing the right music for the right library. It's writing the right music for the right music client.
Also putting it into the context of being suitable or more licensable, for example, because you could be really creative and write really interesting music, but you might not be following some of the key let's say production rules. And they're not rules, but they're guidelines to help your music become more licensable. Like if you watch my live stream yesterday, you see that maybe a handful of those submissions, the feedback was like, let's chop down the intro length here. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. It's like, get to the goods right away. We're living in a world where the customer is scrolling through hundreds of tracks trying to find the right one. The patience is very, very thin for those long intros that are more than 30 seconds long. You kind of have to you got to get them hooked right away. That's just a simple thing, you know what I mean? So it's it might not always be a stylistic thing. You might be writing music that's stylistically very, very licensable, but you're kind of maybe not paying attention to some of the things that would help the music get licensed. And those are the types of guidelines that I talk a lot about in the Production Music Academy. I'm trying to help people, make inroads so that their music can live on these libraries and get downloaded and get accepted, right? So I actually had one of the members just posted yesterday in the Academy that he was accepted to Artlist, and he'd been applying several times, and he was writing amazing music. Writing really, really amazing music. And I think it was, I think he'd been turned down before. And this has happened a few times where people sent me music for review, and, it's just kind of tightening things up here and there and just saying, hey, take this, watch your arrangement, make sure that your intros aren't too long, or, watch this type of instrumentation. And these are the reasons that people, that libraries might hear this music and say, hey, this is really good music, but it might not be a good fit for the library for specific reasons. And of course, the library doesn't have time to get back to you and say, give you the whole spiel as to why it's not working. They just they get so many submissions that it's just like yes or no, right? Like some people just get it and other people don't. And a lot of people are left wondering, well, why did I get turned down? And so, sometimes I'll hear the music and I'll be like, you're writing amazing music, but you gotta do a few little tiny things. And it works. It works. I've had several people, reapply to Artlist and get accepted. So I'm not taking, all the credit for it, but it's just it's really helpful to have some feedback from in terms of just like following those rules. I guess we'll call them rules or those guidelines. So.
Yeah, and I am not the biggest person on templates and reference tracks and all that kind of stuff just because I sometimes think it interferes with my creativity. But if your focus is to do what Steve did, then you've got to probably do what Steve is telling you he did. If your focus is to do what I did when I had a song that did pretty well after I followed what Steve did, from him following what someone else did, we are seeing success begets success, and so you emulate that success and you emulate that music, and it's not about just copying. A lot of people think reference tracks, and I sometimes feel like this. Oh, you're not really making music, you're just copying music. But I think we're all going to add our own thing in there, and that is what is going to get you the gig. That's what's going to get you more downloads. That's what's going to make you more income. And it's it's going to get your song picked.
Yeah.
So
And
another
misconception is that I'm trying to get everyone to write like corporate music academy, and that's not the case.
You're like the Borg. You're just like, you must make corporate music. We are the
assimilating
Borg.
Totally. I'm not trying to steal your soul. Like, because there's more demand for like artist-driven, creative, music in the licensing space than ever before.
Yeah, and it's still
right
growing.
Now, just go check out some of the music on Artlist. For example, go listen to some of the artists on Musicvine. These guys they're looking for that creativity. They're looking for that originality. That's what they're actually going for. So it's like the whole idea of like corporatized music, like of the AudioJungle flavor. That's like the antithesis of what they want. But there's still a place for that music too. Sure. And Motion Array is kind of like Artlist's version of AudioJungle. They're saying there's clearly a big demand for corporate style music on Motion Array, but also we hear a lot of different creative music on Motion Array as well. There's a big there's a big smorgasbord of music there, man. There's so whatever music you're writing, there's probably a place for it, unless it's like, I don't know, polka or something.
Now, and remember, you can choose to be more, I want to do what I want to do. You just may not find the same success that people who are focusing on the type of music for the library are having. And that's the end. And or you may not put the time into it because you have another job and you don't have time to put it into it, or you have family duties, or you're just beginning and you're starting. So not everybody is going to be able to make $2,500 a month on Motion Array. Not even Steve is going to be able to make that a month. That's going to be a lot of times that's a special month, But as he said, so take heart that you don't have to do this. We're just letting you know that when you focus towards a brief or a library or a job, and you do what is asked by that library, and you're writing the right stuff, that's when you're going to probably have more success. And it's pretty basic, common sense almost. But it's probably not something that, because everybody thinks their songs, their babies are special. And so they're going to throw them up there and go, these are special songs. Steve even said it was special in his broadcast when he listened to it. The problem is that it may not be what that library needs at that time or whatever. And so just keep that in mind and change your focus. If you want to change your income, change your focus. I changed my focus over the past 5 to 10 years, and now I suddenly starting this week, I have more income, and we'll talk about that later. But again, it's all about that focusing all of your power on that thing. It's like superheroes, and when they're first learning their superpowers, they have to focus and use your power and focus that power. Yeah. And so it's kind of the same thing. You have to focus your time and energy and talent on something that's going to, if your goal is to make income from it, on that thing. And you're not going to be able to just mess around and just do whatever you want. If you do, then you may not make as much as the next guy who is focusing on that. So my 2 cents.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that makes sense. You're right. You're right.
Speaking of going to make music income,
you got to go make some music income right now.
I got to go make some music income right now. So I think this has been helpful. This is something we kind of just riffed on today because we had the idea, and it's something that means a lot to us. And it just was a conversation we were having through the week. And I think just the amounts made from different people have been really discussed in our Discord a lot, and how little they're making, or how they're making about the same, or how they're making more. And we thought today might be a good idea to get into the whys. You might be making less or more, and both of us have different experiences on both ends of that spectrum.
Yeah, right.
About why, and I think I know why, and so there you go. That's what we know. So take that, our friends. Go and make more music income with this knowledge.
Take it. Use it.
The last thought, Steve?
Monetize it.
Monetize your power. Use your musical power.
Tame your superpower.
It sounds like I'm in another kind of movie that's being overdubbed. But
for this thumbnail, we're gonna have to superimpose superhero faces.
Samurai. All right. Well, everybody, thanks you so much for listening this week to the Make Music Income podcast. And make sure you leave any comments in the YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube and you want to be listening in your car, you can also listen on all the podcast places. And if you're listening in your car or someplace else to the podcast, you can also watch it on YouTube. So
if you're listening in your car, drive safe. Keep your eyes on the road.
Yeah. Don't watch our YouTubes in your car as you're driving. We are not bound by any unsafe driving practices. So
exactly. Okay.
All right, man.
Take care, folks.
We will see you next week.
Bye.